Alright, so I'm going to cut my image with the Cricut machine, and I'm going to be doing 2 palm leaves for a flower vase. And what I'm going to do is basically do my settings. So this is kind of like a chart here I found online, and I've kind of just made it onto my own. It just tells you which to cut. So basically I'm going to cut the vinyl, but I don't want to cut all the way through, because as you can see it's kind of got the white stickiness on that, and for this application we do not want to cut all the way through. So what you're going to do is your settings for your blade depth is going to be set to 4, and your speed is going to be set to 5, and your pressure is going to be set to 3. So once we've got all that done, I'm just going to basically go to my image here, and I'm using a software called Make the Cut, and that basically just hooks up to your Cricut machine with a USB port. And once everything is installed, I'm just going to hit the button, install like your USB is connected and everything. And once I've got all that connected, I'm just going to hit the cut button here, and I'm just going to start cutting it out. Now, you can cut your image by hand if you like. I'm not really good at cutting everything out by hand, but you can cut it out, or if you've got another image or basically anything, you can cut it out. And as long as you're using a vinyl, anything that will stick to it for glass etching basically over top will be fine for your image. So this is just going to cut, and then after it's cut I'll show you what to do next. Okay, I just finished cutting it out from the Cricut machine, just finished. So my next step is going to be peeling this completely off of your mat. And I'm just going to put this aside because I don't need it right now. So you probably can't really see it too well on here. I don't know if you can with the light. You might be able to see some of the image. Now what we want to do is, just from the Cricut kit, I just got one of these little, I don't know what the exact term to it is, but it's just got a point to it, and this is basically what I use to pick it out. So I'm just going to turn it just to find it in the light, some areas. And what we want to do is you want to take this part out of the palm area, because we want to etch that for the glass. So basically I'm just going to go and find each and every piece as I can and just slowly peel it out. With if you poke through all the way through, that's okay too, because it's this part here we're not going to use afterwards anyway, so it will be okay. And you just want to take your time and go slow, and just some areas might stick a little bit more, but that's okay. You just take your time on the edges and just use your finger just to push it down. So I'm just gonna go around, and I'm gonna go do both of the images. Okay, now that I picked out each and every area that I wanted to etch with glass, I removed everything, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some scissors here, and I'm just going to cut it in half, because I only want to use one leaf at a time. Just carefully just go down all the way, and if you wanted to, you could cut some away this area. It will just help make it a little bit easier when you're putting it on the vase, than to have like this big extra black thing on. So I'm just gonna cut around. Now you don't want to go too close, because remember you are putting glass etching cream on whatnot. Now you can put some green painter's tape over on your edges, and that will help you with your image. So the next thing what we want to do is you want to use some contact paper. And contact paper is just basically some clear plastic, and we're just gonna peel this off here. Once you just peel it all off, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put on one of our images, and I'm just gonna see which one I want to use first. So it'll be this one here I'm gonna use first. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. Sorry, I'm going to use this one first here. And I'm basically just going to start on one end. And slowly just put it down. And make it all nice and smooth. And if you have a little squeegee or in your Cricut kit that you got, I just like to really smooth it down just to make sure that everything is all nice and get your air bubbles out. And the reason for that is because now what we're going to do is you're going to remove the backing to it. And I'm just going to probably just start with a little bit back over so that when I put it onto my glass, it'll be nice and straight. Okay, so now I got my vase, and I just kind of place it on here just with a tape just to kind of see where I wanted it. And now I'm happy with the position where I want it. So what you're going to do now is, like I talked about before, you could half fold it and slowly peel it off depending on what direction. I'm just going to fully peel this off because I just on an angle, this is already on sticky nicely. So I'm just going to fold it down nicely, and I'll firmly fold it afterwards. Just want to slowly place it down so you kind of can see where you'd want it to go. And slowly just peeling it back and naturally making sure there's no air bubbles in or anything like that. And I am happy with that. Now what you want to do is just take your little scraper thing that you had before, and you just want to do the same thing and just slightly, a little firmly, you want to push it down, because now you want the black vinyl to stick down onto it, because you don't want this stuff peeling up. So we're just going to go wherever we put it on here and stick it all nice and down. And now for peeling it off, basically what you want to do is you want to peel it off slowly but on a 45 degree kind of motion. That way then it won't stick so much. Now, as you can see, some areas are going to slowly pop off. That's okay. All you do is you go back at it and you slowly just push down. Sometimes a little time consuming because sometimes for small detail they will start to pop on you. If not, try to peel it from a different direction. Now sometimes too, if you reuse your contact paper, it gets a little less stickier. So sometimes if you're doing finer detailed work, that comes in handy because then it's not so sticky. So all I'm going to do now is just slowly peel off my paper here in slow motion if I can. And sometimes it just takes a little time and this little working at it. It's okay if this black stuff pops off near the edges, because you can always bring that back down. So I just gotta move it up and down a bit, and just kind of play with it a bit on down. And if some areas happen to pop up and still pop up, just take your little brush. Don't take your fingers, because you're gonna make a finger imprint, and you really don't want to do that because you just cleaned your glass. So make sure your glass is cleaned and everything before you go and do this. It's a tip. And slowly just lift up this other edge here. Just take your time. It's no rush. If it takes you a bit longer, it's better than having a whole bunch of stuff peeling up on you. And sometimes you have to pull from different directions depending on how your shape is or how it's designed. And don't worry about that black piece. I accidentally just poked a little hole through mine when I was doing it, so I just got to cover it so my glass etching doesn't stick to it. And there we go. So it's all nicely, completely peeled. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take just that little area. If you do happen to get a hole in it, it's no big deal. And I like to reuse these, so I'll stick it back down. I'm just going to stick it carefully back where I had it there before, positioned it. I'll just make sure I don't have anything. And as soon as I'm done with this, all I do is I just put it right back on my paper so I can reuse it again for next time, for my next one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the cream on, and because it's on different angles, you're just going to have to put it on the etching cream and just kind of watch it because it will kind of run. So I probably will start more on the smaller area, which is here, and then slowly go over here. And all I'm using is Armor All etching cream, and I like to put my cream on for about 15 to 20 minutes. I find their 5 minutes directions, or some even say to keep it on for a couple of seconds. I find the longer I left it on, the better image I got. So I usually set a timer and do it for 20 minutes. And what I do is before I use the cream, I mix it really well or shake it really well in the can, and just use a paintbrush, and we're just gonna just dab it on. And just kind of dab it on in the areas. I'm not putting too much on the edges right now just because I don't want them too much to run. I can always come back and just put just a tiny bit more on. I'm not afraid of that, because I would hate for it to run on the edges. So, and if you do have some issues running on the edges, before is actually a good idea. Before you do it, is put some tape around here. So you can just put some lightly, just tape around here. Doesn't have to be fancy or neat. And I left enough room when I was cutting out, so you don't have to put tape. If you feel like you need tape, go ahead and put it on. I'm just going to put it on just on the areas, just a little bit, just because I don't want it to run so much. So let's keep my eye on it. So just put some tape here in the other areas. There we go. So I just put a little bit extra tape on just to make sure it doesn't go through or anything. And now I will just continue putting on my cream. And once you put your cream on completely, then just put on your timer for 20 minutes. And that's it. So I'm just going to finish up doing my whole image, and just push the timer for 20 minutes, and I'll show you what to do next.